Hello there, and welcome to Dark Souls. So, I really like this game. I've been in another Dark Souls Let's Play before, but I feel like this one's a bit different because that was a blind playthrough, someone who'd never played the game before. This is just gonna be me playing this game. I really like it. I know a lot about it. I have been meaning to replay it for a while, but kind of just haven't. And so I was sort of thinking, you know, why don't I just record this and talk about whatever the fuck comes to mind. I don't really think that this is going to be a let's play in the traditional sense, in that I'm probably going to try to only show the things that I think are interesting enough. I'm just going to record myself hot mic this whole time, and whenever I think of something to say, I'll say it. So yeah, kind of going through this, only half paying attention to what my choices are. Doesn't matter too much. One thing that I'm definitely not going to do is take the master key though, because I sort of want this to be, there's no like intended path for Dark Souls, but you know, if you know this game, you know that there's a lot of ways to sort of cheat around what the sort of natural path is. And I'd rather just actually go through it as if I were playing the game, or as if I were playing the game normally, or for the first time. What am I trying to say? This is going great, and I love it, and I'm sure you'll all love it, so, wonderful. What do we want as far as face goes? I don't know. I just don't know. Let's go with that. A little color. I've always liked all of the different hairstyles and skin colors and things that the game provides you with. A lot of neat options. I'm gonna go with this though. And of course you could always customize it further if you really want to spend a buttload of time in here, but don't worry, we're not going to do that. Alright. I think this is good enough. Old Witch's Ring will be useful sometime in the future, I'm sure. But fuck it, let's jump in.
In the age of ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog. A land of grey crags, arch trees, and everlasting dragons. But then there was fire, and with fire came disparity. Heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then from the dark they came and found the souls of lords within the flame. Nito, the first of the dead. The Witch of Izalith and her daughters of chaos. Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, and his faithful knights. And the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords, they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty bolts peeled apart their stone scales. The witches weaved great firestorms. Leto unleashed a miasma of death and disease. And Seath, the scales, betrayed his own, and the dragons were no more. Thus began the Age of Fire. But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain. Even now, there are only embers. And man sees not light, but only endless lights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark side.
Dark Souls.
Yes, indeed. The dark sign brands the undead. And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north. Where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate.
And it begins. Everyone has seen that cutscene before, I'm sure. But I really, really love it. I think it is just such a fantastic intro to the world, to the mythology of the whole series, but it's really, really well shot. And I was debating talking over it director's commentary style, but those kind of cutscenes happen so rarely in this game, I sort of figured it was important to let the game talk its own way. And of course, after you get all that history, you get your own short introduction to this place here, and you get a light dropped on you with your salvation, the dungeon cell key. I really like this as a cold open, how it goes from all of this big picture stuff to your small little self, just, you know, trapped in a cell right now until you get a corpse dropped on you. Did that knight do it on purpose? Probably not, as this key attests. I will probably be reading inventory that I think is interesting. I'll be taking my time on that sort of thing. And I'll probably cut it out when I don't think it's interesting enough, so we'll figure it out. Anyway, some of the best items in this game to read for snippets of lore and like the main story are the various keys that you get. They give you hints to what they go to, and they really seem to be some of the most speculative items in the game for whatever reason. As this one, a mysterious knight, without saying a word, shoved a corpse down into the cell, and on its person was this key. Who was this knight, and what was his purpose? There may be no answers, but one must still forge ahead. It kind of gives you your impetus for, you know, everything over here. Sure, we don't really know what that guy's deal was. We don't know why he dropped it down. We don't know if he even noticed us, but that's what we got. And it's our way out. You get an online item that will take you away if you're summoned to another world. It's not very lore heavy, but we also have the Dark Sign, which is basically the get out of an awful zone for an unwinnable state for free at the cost of all of your souls. Signifies an accursed undead. Those branded with it are reborn after death, but will one day lose their mind and go hollow. It's sort of the excuse for the gameplay conceit if you die and you come back, but I really like how it is tied into the lore as a whole, and I'm kind of hesitant to use the word lore. I don't really like the word lore. I don't really like the whole single source of truth kind of thing, but it's, I guess, the most functional word for what I'm trying to say here. Also have our straight sword hilt. It's basically, this is bad, don't do it. Hilt of this lost sword found discarded in the undead asylum. Armor is usually pretty generic until you start finding the regular stuff. Usually you get like one little bit of stuff. And we have the Old Witch's Ring, our gift. Old ring from an old witch. Indecipherable script, seemingly useless. Not much you can do with it, but I mean, it's a pretty ring. You can keep it on. Don't really have anything else right now. And that's what the game gives you to start. And it sort of just lets you do everything else on your own. I like this tutorial system. It's basically gets you used to reading messages, but avoids all of the other stuff. You can see that this here is trying to get you to attack this completely stationary enemy that won't do anything if you ignore them, but will attack you if you allow them. Of course, it also sort of laser focuses you forward when you could look to the right and see this guy over here. I think this is a really interesting design. It allows you to miss this without really missing anything important, but since you can hear its footsteps, you really can see. It's sort of the game subtly teaches you right from the start to pay attention to your surroundings, to listen to what you can hear, and to not be so laser focused, even when the game is kind of teaching you to be that laser focused. Run tutorial, of course. I like it. I like the way that this whole Northern Asylum is laid out. And you come in here, there's another one, just an empty-eyed hollow, won't ever attack you. The game doesn't put anything threatening in front of you, because if you've never played a Souls game before, the controls are a bit different from a lot of the stuff. You use the bumpers to do most of your attacking. It's very slow and methodical, and it can take a long time to really get used to it. So I really like that they give you this area here to sort of get used to, you know, how the controls themselves work before throwing you into the deep end. Of course, they introduced the bonfire. I don't know if you're gonna get like Steam notifications on top of this. It works a lot of the time. Whatever. So, you get all this time, they introduce the major mechanics, the movement, the bonfires, and then they just throw you into the fire. They set up this door like this, kind of, you know, it's very visually different from everything else. It's shrouded in the sunlight, or it's like, you know, shown in the sunlight. It's got a very interesting color scheme to it. You kind of know that this is sort of the point where the game is not. You know, you can hear those steps in the background, and those actually aren't for the boss fight that's about to happen. Those are actually the floor below us and not the boss that we're about to fight. But it does build up this sense of anticipation. You know that there's going to be something in this room. And if you're observant and you look up, let's see if I can get a better... No, I really can't. There you go. There you go. I can tilt the camera down. If you're observant and look up, which gamers apparently just never do, you can see that there's a bit of a guard out there. You can even potentially see him fall in or jump in, but it's really tough with the camera. And suddenly you're just thrown into a boss fight. Ow. Ugh. So you might think that the only way to do this is to die, but it's not. And if you try to do that, you'll just end up at the bonfire before. This dude hits pretty lightly, all things considered. You know, it's not really as dangerous as it seems, but his weight, his attacks have so much weight to them that, like, it feels dangerous. You, as a player, understand immediately this is not a fight you're supposed to win. Especially, you know, you hit him with your broken sword, whose item description is basically, please get a new one. You do 2 damage. And it's like, okay, this can't be right. It's a tough thing to do, to set up a boss fight that you really can't win like this, but I really like the way that you do this. And you immediately get the player looking for other options. The way that this closes immediately and the boss fight song just ends, sort of just, you know, confirms exactly what you were thinking. And you run away. Because you don't have the tools for that kind of thing. But hey, we survived the first boss fight, if you can call it that. Got our health back, got a new respawn point. It's set up so well. Like, you go into Dark Souls, this game sort of has this cultural mythos around it. You know what you're getting into. You come up to this boss fight, and you kind of, figure out very quickly that there isn't... Look how that arrow just sticks out. Like, there are some fights that you're just not expected to win. I will say that something Dark Souls doesn't always do well is communicate when you're not supposed to win a boss fight. There's really only one other boss fight in this game that you're meant to walk into and lose, and it feels like here at the start of the game, it's really obvious that what you're supposed to do, that you're supposed to run away from it, because you have a broken sword. What are you gonna do? Oops. Later in the game when that happens, it's been so long since you've had an unwinnable fight that it sort of feels kind of sprung on you, that you have to die. Boy, I'm looking at this and kind of wondering if this was the original description of this item, because I don't remember it saying this. This is much more of a gamey description, that it's easy to use and offers 100% physical reduction. Which is really important at this point in the game, because there's not a lot of shields that do that. But, nice, we have a shield now. We can block those stupid arrows. This is, you know, sword and board is sort of the standard Dark Souls combat style. This game especially, shields are very, very powerful. And now we have a real sword. We're also still locked onto that guy for a bit longer than you'd expect. Widely used straight sword, only matched in ubiquity by the short sword. You will find a lot of these swords in your game. But hey, we've pretty much got our fully kitted out character now, which is nice. Let's go take on the rest of this asylum.